There is so much action in this movie. The Battle of Five Armies in the book just takes place on like one page. That's it. But like they turn the entire movie into this one giant action scene. Wow, it's just insane. The Battle of the Five Armies is the epic conclusion to the Hobbit trilogy. It stars Martin Freeman, Ian McKellen, Orlando Bloom, Richard Armitage, and Evangeline Lilly. I enjoyed the Battle of the Five Armies overall. I don't think that it's like this amazing film. I enjoy like certain aspects of this movie, but I also think that it's the weakest of the three films. And I think that a lot of the reason for that is the action. There's just too much action in this movie, and a lot of it feels like a video game, and not in a good way. Like, it just doesn't feel all that real to me. Like, the battle sequences, they just rely too much on CGI effects, and especially like the orcs in this movie, they don't look real at all, and it takes me out of the film a little bit. But I do find some enjoyment in this film. Like I said, there are some parts that I like. I enjoy a lot of the characters. I think that the characters are still really good, but I do think that it could have been better in certain areas. I just don't think that this movie is as good as like the previous two. But let's get on with it. Like, the movie starts immediately where like the desolation of Smaug ends, which is understandable because like this is like the climax of that movie, the opening of Battle of the Five Armies, and here like Smaug is just burning Lake Town, and he is destroying the buildings, killing a bunch of people. It's disastrous, and I love like the way this movie opens. I love this opening. The CGI fire, I'm not really a big fan of. Like, I don't like it when Hollywood does like CGI fire, but you kind of have to here because it's so big, and like it's just a complete devastation. And I understand why they chose CGI fire, even though like it doesn't really look all that super realistic. But yeah, I like this opening. I like how like Bard is trying his best to hit the target. He wants to kill the dragon, but he doesn't have the right weapon to do so. And then his son brings the weapon to him. He just decides to leave the boat. Like, he's on the boat with the dwarves and Toriel, but he decides to go and get the weapon, because without him, like without Bard's son, I don't think that they would have made it out alive. Like, Smaug would have probably killed everyone there. And so Bard's son, he brings the weapon to Bard and this tower, and Bard uses his son to throw the arrow at the Smaug. Kind of dangerous to use your own kid for that, but like I guess they were desperate. He didn't have really another choice, and so he fires this arrow at the same spot that like Smaug was wounded in the past, and Smaug dies. Smaug draws a final breath, and he just lands in Lake Town, and he is dead finally. And so the dwarves, they watch this happen from Erebor, and I love just this visual where we see like most of the dwarves are like just completely devastated. They're just like really sad about what's happening to Lake Town, because the dragon like burned the shit out of the city. But we have just Thorin Oakenshield, who doesn't give a shit about any of that. He is just focused on Erebor. And I thought that was like this brilliant visual. Like, he is just focused on one thing, and that is the Arkenstone. He wants the Arkenstone. He wants the gold. He doesn't give a shit about the people of Lake Town, and his actions throughout the movie sort of shows that. Like Balin said, there is a curse on this mountain, and like everybody who has like control over Erebor is just becomes mad because like there's just too much gold. And so, yeah, they defeat Smaug, and now, like, the people of Lake Town, they need to find another home. Like, their entire home is completely destroyed. And, of course, they are looking for people to blame, and they blame Alfred. Now, Alfred in this movie, I think that would have worked if, like, the last place we see him is after where Bart tells the people like, have you not have enough bloodshed, where they just try to rip Alfred apart and they're like looking for somebody to blame, like I said. I think that would have been like the perfect place to end Alfred's story. Like, you didn't need to continue his storyline throughout this movie. He feels completely useless. It feels like we're wasting time watching Alfred. It really does. Like, I don't, for the life of me, understand why Peter Jackson made this decision. Like, Alfred is now one of the main characters in Battle of Five Armies, where you have like a complete other company of dwarves that sort of gets sidelined this movie. This film really sort of feels like a studio movie. Like, I don't know if it was Peter Jackson's decision to do that, but I just don't understand some of the decisions in this movie. Alfred, I think, is like the biggest time waster. He is completely useless. Like, at least in the extended edition, we see him die. We see him get killed in this like so over the top manner. And then, like, there's this ridiculous scene where he has like these big titties and he hides gold inside inside his dress, and it looks completely ridiculous. I hate this character. Like, I think that he is just like I said, the biggest time waster of the three movies. The people of Lake Town, they know that Bard is the one that killed Smaug, so like they turn to him to lead, and Bard doesn't really seem happy about that. Like, I don't think that Bard wants to be a leader at all, but he sort of is. I think that he's gonna become like the leader of Lake Town. Like, we don't really know that, but I have a feeling that it's going to be Bard. And so they decide to go to the ruins of Dale for shelter. The people of Lake Town, they decide to go there. And now they want their part of the treasure. Like, they want what was promised to them by Thorin. And so they head to Lake Town. And of course, now Thorin, who is completely obsessed in finding the Arkenstone, doesn't want to give them what he owes them. He doesn't want to give them their part of the treasure, even though like Bilbo vouched for him in the previous film. Thorin is like completely gone at this point. He is no longer the same man that was in the previous two films, and he is obsessed with finding the Arkenstone, but he is now convinced that like one of the dwarves or Bilbo like hid the stone from him, and he just demands for them to find this object, like at any means necessary. He wants it found. And so Bilbo, he realizes that like Thorin isn't really all that well, and now the four dwarves that were left behind in Lake Town, they head out to Erebor. Like, Killy separates from Toriel. They can't be together. It won't work because she's an elf and he's a dwarf, and she has responsibilities and he has responsibilities, so they can't be together. And Killy, he leaves with the other dwarves to Erebor, and then they meet Bilbo, who tells them that like Thorin's gone insane. I really think that they did Thorin's corruption well in this movie. What I don't like in Battle of the Five Armies is that we don't get a lot of time with Bilbo. Like, I think that the Bilbo storyline is completely sidelined in this movie. He is not even the main character of the film. Like, I think Thorin sort of becomes the main character, if you can argue that. Like, we barely see the ring in this movie. Like, we see it once, where he puts it on, but that's it. Like, we don't see the ring corrupting him. It's almost forgotten. I would have liked to have seen the ring, like, slowly corrupting him even more, and like him becoming kind of like Frodo in the original Lord of the Rings trilogy, where he becomes like meaner and more aggressive towards Sam. I would have enjoyed that. But yeah, nevertheless, Thorin decides to seal off like the part that was destroyed from the main gate by Smaug. He decides to put some stones there so that the people of Lake Town can't get through. And then the elves arrive, the wood elves. Legolas' father arrives, Thorondel, and then he and Bard try to come to a term so that they can avoid war. But Thorin, of course, he is like too far gone at this point, and he would rather have war than give the people of Lake Down what they were promised. So there you go. They are on the verge of war. And so yeah, the conflict is at an all-time high. Meanwhile, Gandalf is in prison in Dol Guldur, while like the armies of the orcs, they marched out on the Lonely Mountain, and he is helped by Elrond, Galadriel, and Saruman. Like they arrive to help him against the Nazgul. They fight the Nine, and scene is really like epic. It's really well done. The only problem like with this part of the movie is that like it doesn't really go anywhere. You get this epic scene, which is great. You get like Galadriel and Gandalf. They have a moment together, and like Gandalf doesn't want to let her go, but he has no choice, and he is brought out of Dol Guldur by Radagast. And Galadriel fights off Sauron. She becomes like her witch form, and she banishes him to the east. And then Saruman tells Elrond to take Galadriel to Lothlorien, which is like a Lord of the Rings tie-in, and then he tells them that like they should leave Sauron to him. But this is the part where like I would have liked to know more, because like if they had shown how like Saruman got corrupted, I thought that would have been like pretty cool. Like it would have meant more to this scene, because this scene, like I said, it ends here, and we don't really even see these characters again throughout the film. And I would have liked to have seen Saruman's corruption by Sauron. Like I think that would have been pretty cool to see in this movie. So yeah, Gandalf decides to head back to Lonely Mountain, and Radagast actually gives him his staff. And I like that like this extended edition of the Battle of Five Armies was actually like rated R, just because like an orc sort of like just beat Gandalf almost to death, and there was a little bit of blood. Like, really, was that enough for this movie to be rated R? I just don't really understand that, but okay, whatever, it was rated R. In order to avoid conflict, Bilbo takes the Arkenstone to the people of Lake Down so that they can bargain with Thorin. Thorin doesn't believe that it's the real Arkenstone. I like that nobody listens to Gandalf when he arrives. He says, "When does my counsel count for so little?" It just shows how much Legolas' dad is a dick. And so, we get this epic battle in this movie, the Battle of Five Armies. We get men, elves, dwarves, they arrive to help them, and we get goblins and orcs. Those are the five armies, and the orcs army is led by Azog, who wants revenge against Thorin. Now Thorin eventually comes to his senses near the middle part of this film. He realizes how the gold is slowly corrupting him. And it's a great scene where like he's in sort of imagines himself like enveloped by gold, and he just throws away his crown. Like he doesn't want to be this kind of person, and he decides to go out in the fight against the orcs. But the other dwarves didn't really want that. They wanted to go out and fight. And there's some great moments between Thorin and Bilbo in this movie. Like I wish there were more of them, but there are still some great moments between these characters. I thought that was well handled in this film. And so Thorin, he completely changes, and he decides to lead his brothers out onto the battlefield. And of course, now this battle takes place, and it's the majority of this film. Like this entire film is almost like a battle. I like some parts of it. Like some parts are completely ridiculous. There's like this troll extended scene in the extended edition, which I think is pretty fun. It's all right. The fight between Thorin and Azog, I think, was cool, but I just don't like the way like an Azog is defeated. Like I don't like the way that this fight comes to a conclusion. Like it's just completely ridiculous, where like Azog falls down in the water because like Thorin throws him like the stone, and then the weight crushes Azog in the water, but then he manages to like just come back up magically out of the water, out of the ice, and then he kills Thorin. Like the physics here doesn't really work. I would have found like another way to do this because like it just like completely throws me out of the moment. And there's another moment where like the physics is just completely ridiculous. Is where like Legolas is jumping on the falling stones on this bridge, and like it doesn't look real at all. It looks really bad actually. It's probably the one of the worst scenes in this entire film. And like every time Legolas seems to have do something even like more incredible, like in every movie, like you get the Elephant in the Lord of the Rings Return of the King, and then you have this like falling bridge scene in the Battle of the Five Armies. But like whatever, there are like a lot of scenes like that where the CGI sort of bothers me, and like I said, it's video game action. And like I do feel the stakes, however, like I think that the stakes are pretty good here, and like there are some entertaining moments in the battle. Eventually the eagles arrive and Bjorn, but even then, like why did we get Bjorn? Like we barely see him like destroy some of the army. Like I would have much preferred like Peter Jackson to center on Bjorn for a part of the battle. That would be cool, but we get Bjorn for like 30 seconds. It's like kind of a waste. But yeah, we get some eagles, and then like I said, Bilbo actually put his ring on his finger, but like he gets knocked out during the battle, and he misses some of it. Like in the book, like he gets knocked out, and so yeah, they manage finally to get rid of the Orc army, and while Thorin actually dies, Philly and Killy, they get murdered. Toriel mourns Killy, even though like you don't really care about it, and they get just control of Erebor once again. The dwarves win, and near the end, there's this scene that comes out of nowhere where with Thranduil and Legolas, where he tells his son about Aragorn. It was just to make this tie-in for the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Thranduil is like a dick throughout the entire movies, and he's suddenly super nice to Legolas, and it just felt out of place. Now, I feel like the Battle of the Five Armies is just too quick on its conclusion. Like, we don't get a lot of answers to the questions that were brought up by the movie. Like, we don't know what happened to the Arkenstone. That's one a major question that we don't know what happened. Like, I assume it remains in Erebor, and that Balin is gonna get control of it, but like that's it. Like, we don't really have a resolution for that. We also didn't have a funeral for the dwarves in the theatrical edition, but we do have one in the extended edition, and I think that it really works here better to see like Bilbo and the dwarves mourn, and I think that's good for the movie. We also don't know what happens to the people of Lake Town. Like, what happened to them? Like, did they rebuild Lake Town? I guess so, but I would have liked to have seen it. I would have liked to have seen Bard in charge of Lake Town. So yeah, it's almost like if like Peter Jackson was tired of hearing the criticisms of like the ending of Return of the King and like how it was too long, and like people didn't really like that, and he decided like for the Hobbit just to like end it without like really any resolution, because there are some resolution but like not a lot in this film, and I would have appreciated like for a little more. But I do like the goodbye between like the dwarves and Bilbo. I thought that was really well done. And Bilbo like invites them for tea, and he says like you don't even need to knock. And I felt like that was a really nice speech where you sort of see him grow, and like, he really became a friend to the dwarves, and I really enjoyed that part of the movie. And so they head back to the Shire, since now they have Erebor once again. The quest is now complete, and they head back to the borders of the Shire, and Bilbo says goodbye to Gandalf for now. But Gandalf, he tells Bilbo that he knows about his magic ring. He doesn't know that it's Sauron's ring, but he knows that Bilbo has a ring with him. And Bilbo tells Gandalf that like he lost the ring just weeks ago, and he doesn't have the ring anymore. But I don't think that Gandalf bought that, and so they say their goodbyes, and Bilbo returns home, and he finds that his home is being like auctioned by the hobbits. That's so weird to me that the hobbits would do that. Like, oh, they just see that Bilbo has been gone for a year and then decide to auction his home. It's just really weird that they would decide to do that, but I guess there's a reason why Bilbo hates the other hobbits, because like they tried to sell like his possessions and his home, which is really wasn't theirs to sell. Like I just don't understand why they decided to do that. This is where the movie ends. It ends like a little bit before Fellowship of the Ring, and Gandalf comes to visit Bilbo, and that's where the film ends. I'm a fan of the Hobbit trilogy. I don't think that it should have been 3 movies. Like I said, should have been 2 movies. And this movie feels kind of like it has too much action. It really does. It's still good. It's still entertaining. I'd give this movie a B. I think that it's solid. It's an entertaining watch. So yeah, please let me know what you think about Battle of the Five Armies down in the comments below. Please like, comment, subscribe, and see you next time. Peace.